So you just think they're meant to have babies. That's
Well,
it. They're just a vessel.
No, it doesn't take any talent to simply reproduce biologically. The wife and mother, who is the chief executive of the home, is entrusted with 3 or 4 or 5 eternal souls.
I'm here as a working journalist, and I'm a mom of 3.
Good for you.
Is that an issue
No?
for you?
And no, it's not automatically an issue.
So, like, in your view of a Christian nation, a Christian America, would this be acceptable that I'm here as a working mom in Idaho?
Sure. Wouldn't
Okay.
be.
Okay.
Sure.
Hey, what's up, y'all, man? Jonathan Owens here, another episode of The Word Spoken. Let's get right into this. Now, this conversation has been going on for I don't know how long. Is the Bible sexist? Yeah, that is an actual thing that people talk about, and they say, hey, all the people who wrote the Bible are men. Jesus is a man. God refers to himself as him. Like, we live in a patriarchal world. Like, the Bible is just another one of those resources that wants to dominate women, tell them what they can do with their body, and it's just another sexist thing. Well, I think it's important to understand a couple things. So we're going to talk about how we can have a nuanced view regarding this. So let's get right into it so you don't have to wait any longer. Now, many people have different sentiments about this, and they say some crazy things. Check this out.
I do agree that it seems the most likely reading of Romans 1 is that the context of that sexual behavior is related to Greco-Roman idolatry. Now, the other side that I'm also willing to concede is that I do believe Paul has a patriarchal worldview. Paul believes the created order is fundamentally patriarchal. I reject that. I believe...
Now, I don't know why in the world would you disagree with Paul. It's crazy. But people also, they often get upset because they be like, man, all the things that the Bible talks about men doing to women, like, you gotta submit, you gotta, he has to be the head and all these different things. It's like, well, what a sexist thing. You just saw, like, one of the, Ruslan did a video about this, about the pastor, and he was interviewed by CNN, and it was like the interviewer was like flabbergasted. You actually submit to him? It's like different ways she was coming at him, and it was like, it was reiterating this feminism type of, and then sexist, antagonistic, framework. Well, it's kind of crazy because why would they say this when we see the results of everything and how the Bible best explains everything we see, and when it's done in a proper light and proper way, you get the proper results, you get the best results. And it's so crazy because you not only get the spiritual results, you get the best results. Why? Because the creator of the universe designed it that way. So when you do it his way, you practically get the best results. You not only spiritually get the best results, you practically get the best results. So shout out to also, like I said, Ruslan. He was doing something like that. He was saying something like that. But that's true, because most importantly, it's the spiritual, but you also get the practical. Now, like, how do we look at this? Because they're going to say that, you use your Bible to make women lower. Like, y'all say stuff like this. Check it out. Y'all say stuff like this. 1 Corinthians 14. For God is not characterized by disorder, but by peace. As in all the churches of the saints, the women should be silent in the churches, but they're not permitted to speak. Rather, let them be submissive. And in fact, the law says, if they want to find out anything about anything, they should ask their husband at home, because it's disgraceful for women to speak in church. Yeah, I get it. Or Ephesians 2:22-24. You got to submit to your husband as to the Lord, because the husband is the head of the wife, as also Christ is the head of the church, and he himself being the savior of the body. But as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. And they might read it just like that. So again, antagonistic, so like nonchalant. They're gonna read it with such vitriol. But I would say, if you understand everything that took place in every time, then you will be God. So do you understand? My question to the person would be, do you understand his purpose? And do you understand what actually happened? Do you not understand that Paul saying this in this verse right here, but then not talking about women prophesizing in church? So how can you be silent in church, but then you also prophesizing in church? So it makes no sense. So that means obviously you got to get the context of what he's saying in this passage. And we don't have to go into too much deeper because this is not what this video is about. But then you get the understanding of in that situation where they were speaking out of turn. And then so Paul had to get order in the church, because if the husband is a spiritual leader, then okay, I'm going to reduce them to that because there's no order in the way they're behaving in that church in that city. So how can Paul help this? Even though he said that this is a kind of like a recognition for all the churches, the recognition of all the churches is that the primary reason of him saying that is that, oh, this hierarchy of a man in how he is the spiritual head. But he already mentioned that they were prophesizing, so it doesn't make sense for somebody to have that reading, then also not understand the next passage not too long after. So how do we take all of this and say, oh, but that still sounds sexist? That still sounds crazy. Like even the people in that church, you gotta be silent. And even when he said that you gotta submit. Well, let's look at all these different things. If we take both of them at face value, we look at it just the way it is. Where did this come from? Excuse me. Where did this come from? Well, take it all the way back to Genesis 3. Let's look at and see where did this come from. Because this is where this come from. Because none of this was originally designed this way. Meaning, like, men were always going to be a sort of kind of like a different responsibility in the head because he was created first. He was always going to be some type of that because the wife was made to help him. But the dynamic of headship, there was none of that. There was not dynamic of headship because there was no need for it. There was no need for it. But in the beginning, there was always some type of like more of a responsibility on the man. But there was no type of headship. How can it be? I'm gonna read it in Genesis 3:16 through 17. We see that to the woman he said, I will greatly increase your labor pains. With pain you will give birth to children. Then you will want to control your husband, but he will dominate you. But to Adam he said, because you obeyed your wife and ate from the tree about which I commanded you, you must not eat of it. Curses the ground thanks to you. And painful toil you will eat of all the days of your life. Now, remember and go back what he just said. He said that you're going to want to control your husband, but he's going to want to dominate. But he will dominate you. So this quote unquote battle of the sexes started right there at the fall. This was not so in the very beginning because God created both of us equal, even though she was our helper. That helped me with somebody to help him along on this journey of what God wanted for mankind in this unit of family. It had no bearing. There was no need for husband and wife and husband being the head because there was no need for Christ in the church because there was never supposed to be a Christ in the church because we always was going to sin, but we were never supposed to sin. So there was never supposed to be a Christ in the church. There was never supposed to be a man being the head and a wife being submitting to that because that's only needed because of the fall of man. And because of the fall of man, now God is saying, oh, that's going to happen. You're going to want to dominate over him. Why? Because it, you usurped his authority in the garden. How is that? How is that? What do you mean? Well, Satan knew what he was doing. He wanted to twist the created order. He came to Eve, and then Eve, what it said that she gave to him. So now Adam was the passive person, and Eve was the aggressive person making the decisions. And that's why Jesus like God, I got another video about that, but God said that, oh, because you listen to the voice of your wife, not because you listen to your wife in a regular sense, because you listen to the voice of your wife over me. So you see how Adam became the passive person. Eve became the aggressor, the dominating person, because she was making the decision to get both of them to sin. But he was supposed to step up and be that person that God called him to be. But then she began, or at that moment, ruled that situation and made him eat, knowing, and he knew that it was wrong. Both of them knew that it was wrong, but there was a reason why in 1 Timothy chapter 2, it said that Adam was not deceived. Eve was deceived. Now, there's many speculations on how can this be. It's because when Adam was created first, Adam saw, in my opinion, one of the reasons for this, Adam saw God create. Like Adam saw, because when God was creating the animals, Adam was naming them, each one of them. So Adam saw God create. So it was kind of like he couldn't be deceived and say that he could be like God, because the enemy came at Eve and said, "Oh, you can be like God, knowing good and evil." Adam already knew, I can't do what God can do. Like, I can't be like God. I saw him create. I don't have that power to create. So I know that I can't be like God. Now, some people may have some other way of explaining this, but there's a reason why Paul said in 1 Timothy 2 that Eve was deceived and Adam wasn't deceived. Adam simply just became the passive husband and fell to the kind of like seduction of his wife, because like, dang, that's my wife, man. That's my wife, man. It's like, and so he ate, but he wasn't supposed to. And that's where that controlling feature and that dominating battle came to place right there. That's where it came into play. So now we see the understanding of, if you say something is sexist, you go all the way back to the beginning and say, where did this come from? So ever since then, God had, because of this fallen world, he had men in leadership in I guess everything, the temple, the church, whatever. Now it's because ever since that very beginning, men are going to now have to be the rule, or be the head, or be like that leader, have that responsibility that he always wanted them to be, because he was his responsibility to tell Eve. So from the very beginning, it was Adam's responsibility to protect, because he was supposed to keep and guard it. He was supposed to provide, because he was supposed to work, but it was easy for him in the very beginning. And then we know from the New Testament that it's a man's responsibility to guide. So this battle started from the very beginning. So you see all these quote unquote sexist scriptures. It's because God is now saying, okay, men, step up. And this is a result as from the fall, that men are going to be in leadership in a way that was never intended to be, but that was a result of the fall. So now you go back to the New Testament, or you just go back into the rest of history, and we see that women, I don't think you realize like how much, like, I would say, worth that you actually have, which you already should, I would believe, hope so, that you understood that, because you were made in the image of God, so you will already have so much worth. So you don't never need to think that these things are sexist when you don't realize that a man's responsibility to you. So if you look at this, because this one passage can change many people's lives. This one passage can change many people's lives, because you understand your worth. 1 Peter 3:7. Husbands, in the same way, treat your wives with consideration. She is a weaker partner, but you are to show them honor as equal heirs of the grace of life. Why? So that nothing will hinder your prayers. So what does this mean? Is a husband in the same way, you gotta treat your wives with consideration, and then also say you gotta dwell with them in an understanding way. But you gotta realize that they are the weaker partner. What does that mean? What does that understanding of that mean? That means women are physically weaker, but then also it means that women are emotionally, they're more in tune emotionally, but that means sometimes they are more emotionally weaker than a man, which can work out as sometimes a bad thing, sometimes a good thing. But naturally, the woman is more weaker in that department because they are more emotional. But not intellectual. Doesn't mean that at all. They had the same intellectual capacity as a man. No greater, no less. Because we see that right here. It says that, but you got to honor them as equal heirs of the grace of life. What does that mean? That means they are just as equal as you, because both of you are saved by grace. Both of you have salvation. None of you are greater than the other. It doesn't matter who you are. But then realize this, so that in this way, that talking to the man, that nothing will hinder your prayers. So God puts so much stock on you, the wife, that if the man is treating you in any type of way below the way God told him that you're supposed to do it, his prayers will be hindered because he's not treating you as his equal. He's not treating you as a loved one. He's not treating you as a person who's made in the image of God. So that amount of value, you should be super elated because there's parameters around man, husband, being able to do anything he wants to. He can't. Otherwise, he try to come to the Lord. God's like, don't dare try to pray to me. I'm just paraphrasing. Don't try to pray to me, because turn around and look at your spouse. You're treating your wife terribly. So don't think I'm going to answer your prayers when you're not responding and listening to her as a valued partner. So in no way is anything sexist. In no way. This is clearly a result of the fall. After God restores all humankind, this will all reverse itself, and it won't be like this nowhere at all. But this is simply a result of the fall because of what Eve did, and now every subsequent woman is, everybody is. All the subsequent women and men are going through because of what they did in the beginning. So that's just the nature of it. But remember, if men are doing all these things and they lead in churches, they lead in their homes, women are the managers because they are the ones who are managing the home. What do I mean? They're the one who they're bringing that stability to as a bedrock of the family. They're helping. They're providing that nurture for the children. They're providing that nurture for the husband. They're providing that nurture for just the whole tone of the home. And then for the church, they provide that loving nurture of a family in the church. Because if men leading, they need that feminine side and that help side to actually create that type of beautiful environment that God always wanted, because it's man and women. So your role and your value is abundant and it's amazing, and you are loved. So we have to get that into all of our minds, but understand nothing sexist about it. It's just simply we are suffering because of the actions, which if we were in their shoes, we would have did the same thing. We would have failed as well. because we all have free will. So we wouldn't have chose anything different. So it is what it is. So, but hopefully all these things were clear, and hopefully you understood that your value is important, your role is important, you are loved, and let us all love one another and understand that we all are equal, but that men step up and be into their role now that we are dealing with this fallen world. Step up and be a man and treat their wives, treat our wives or whatever it is with respect and honor and love and dignity, and then they can respond with that humble submission because they see that we are treating them with so much love. So, man, I will see you all next time, and we're going to talk about something else amazing. All right, this is Jonathan Owens. Peace.